People in the era of AI and machine learning, Forbes billionaires list is filled with people from the tech world. But one man sits at the top with them who has never earned a dime from the technology industry. And that man is Mr. Bernard Arnault, CEO of LVMH. The name represents three massive brands: Louis Vuitton, Moet and Chandler, and Hennessy. And what's strange about these companies is that all of them were founded way before Bernard was even born. So how did he manage to rise to the top of these companies and become the luxury king that he is today? And can we also learn something from his successes and failures? The story starts in 1987 when Louis Vuitton and Moet Hennessy decided on a $4 billion merger deal. The LVMH conglomerate was formed so that the companies could benefit from each other, use each other's resources and increase their market capitalization. But they forgot to take in account the chances of an internal takeover. Henry Recamier from Louis Vuitton had to invite Arnault to help him fight the Moet Hennessy group. But the French businessman had his own desires. Instead of siding with Louis Vuitton, he slowly started amassing stocks of LVMH himself. Soon enough, he had enough support to buy out the biggest stakeholder, and that was Moet Hennessy. This made him the single biggest stakeholder in LVMH with a 45% share and 35% voting rights. That made him reach the blocking minority of the company. Now he could make decisions without interference from the board itself. Next, he ripped off Recamier of his powers and acquired the company that accounts for most of his wealth today. While some may call him an intriguing businessman, his rivals have gone to the extent of calling him the Terminator. As a matter of fact, Arnold is known to have built LVMH by some very hard-fought acquisitions. In 1990, he had complete control over LVMH, and for the next decade, he used the same strategy of blocking minority to acquire a number of luxury brands before going for the big fish that was Gucci. But Gucci wasn't easy to take down. In fact, it is one of the most bitter fights in the corporate history. Bernard, as usual, started amassing shares of Gucci from investors like Prada, and he was unstoppable and uncompromising. After a number of meetings between Gucci and LVMH, Gucci had decided to give up. So Gucci decided to sell the company. They told Bernard, "Hey man, take the whole company for $85 per share." But the so-called luxury king was blindsided by his arrogance. He declined the offer and instead asked for 3 seats in the board of Gucci. And the result was something that he never suspected. And as Thanos also says,
"Arrogant never do."
now Gucci had decided to strike back.
We gotta show them how.
So they created an employee stock ownership plan. Now this is the plan through which company's workforce can benefit with an ownership interest in the company. But Gucci, however, had another motive behind it. The ESOP actually created a new 42% stake in Gucci, and it effectively diluted the shares of existing stakeholders. So the 34.4% share owned by LVMH had boiled down to just about 20%. And the new 42% share was sold to PBR, aka Kering, who now owns the brand Gucci as a part of their own conglomerate. And not just that, this new stake was sold for $75 per share. So now Bernard goes to Gucci and offers to buy these shares again for $85 a piece. But now Gucci rejected him, obviously. Now this reminds me of an interesting concept of psychology called reinforcement. Continuous versus partial. In continuous reinforcement, the desired behavior is reinforced every single time it occurs. For example, if a kid is given a chocolate for every time he cries, then he will never stop crying without a chocolate. On the other hand, if the kid is given chocolate only partially, then in time he is accustomed to stop crying without chocolates. In case of Bernard, he never faced major problems in acquiring a company, so he became a bit more arrogant when it did not happen his way. As a result, he lost the chance to acquire the biggest competitor of his company. So it is important to understand that even in life, you need to be ready for setbacks, because you always pass failure on your way to success. Even after losing such a big battle, the truth remains that the man built the company from ground zero. and that too in a time when people did not invest in the idea of a powerhouse for luxury brands. Today, LVMH owns about 75 luxury brands, and all of his investors are trying to replicate the idea of LVMH. And Bernard Arnault sits at the top with CEOs of tech giants who will never know what it's like to be the luxury king of the market. That's it from my side, and if you think this video can help someone, then please do share it with them.